People of African descent go back hundreds of years in Mexico, but as a group, Afro-Mexicans are largely invisible. A 2015 census is changing that. CCTV's Frank Contreras has insight from Mexico's southern state of Oaxaca.
Among Afro-Mexican communities here on the Pacific coast of Mexico's Oaxaca state, this dance is symbolic. Locals say the devils represent the growing power of African descendants in this part of Latin America. It's a history that's beginning to gain global attention. The presence of Africa here in Oaxaca state is one of the lesser-known aspects of the vast cultural diversity in this region, one of the most culturally diverse in all of Latin America. Last year, for the first time, the government conducted an interim census asking Mexicans, based on your culture, history, and traditions, do you consider yourself black, meaning Afro-Mexican or Afro-descendant? And nearly 1.4 million people responded, yes. Afro-Mexican communities exist here in Oaxaca state's Costa Chica region, the neighboring state of Guerrero, and Veracruz state, among others. An Afro-Mexican leader from Pinotepa Nacional says, as a nation, Mexico is much more than just a mixture of Spanish and indigenous people.
We believe that the whole world should know that in the colonial era, Mexico was an entry point for African slaves. Our ancestors were forcibly brought here under slavery.
But images of African descendants in Mexico rarely appear in public. The exception is this famous comic book character, Memín Penguin, which was created in the 1940s. Nicomedes Ramirez and her cousin, Castula Silva, grew up in these impoverished coastal communities. Ramirez says over the years, politicians have come with their electioneer promises to end poverty.
They told us they would help, and they would bring us basic things we were lacking. All we had to do was ask, but so far, they have done nothing for us.
I never went to school because when I was a girl, there was no school here. We had to go to another community, and my parents, may they rest in peace, told me I could not go, so I never studied.
Afro-Mexican communities are almost completely separated from the rest of Mexico, and very few outsiders ever come here for a first-hand look at their most well-known traditions, like this dance known as a chilena, or this one depicting a charging bull. Mexico's national constitution is the only one in Latin America that does not specifically mention the existence of citizens of African descent. Afro-Mexican authorities say they're planning to take legal action and change the constitution so that it includes them.
By having no presence in the Mexican Constitution, there is no public policy that protects our rights and necessities. We, as Afro-Mexicans, like many indigenous Mexicans, live in regions of extreme marginalization.
Constitutional recognition would finally give them access to medical services, educational grants, and Social Security benefits. For now, Afro-Mexicans, whose descendants came from places like Kenya, Congo, and later the Caribbean, still do not enjoy these basic rights. Frank Contreras, CCTV, on the Costa Chica in Mexico's southern state of Oaxaca.